That's when the people kind of freak out when I say, yeah, to get into this class, you had to have, well, you had to have at least 2 full years of chemistry and a year of physics and a year of math, college math, not just math, and up through calculus. And when I say that, everybody's like, oh, dang. I was like, yeah, but it's great for me because, y'all are serious students by the time you get here because you've been through the ringer. So yeah, it involves physics, involves math. We can do a fair bit of math in this course, but it's not. When I took physical chemistry, it was just like a third math class. We didn't really apply it much, and so I teach it a little differently. It's very applied. We cover enough math so you can understand the terms and understand what's under the hood, but then we apply it a lot. But still, what is it? What is PChem? Think of the term physical. What does that tell you in terms of science?
It's actually performed. It's not a theoretical thing.
Well, yes and no. There's a lot of theory, but it's theory related to the physical. What do we mean by physical versus chemical? Like if we're back to freshman chemistry, we're talking about physical properties versus chemical properties. Yeah, so what are some physical properties of materials?
Like phase.
Phase, like solid, liquid, gas. Exactly. Someone else. Shape, okay. And volume, right? So density, for sure, physical property.
Temperature?
Yes, okay, very good. So temperature and energy. So all of these things that interact with the physical world, that's what this chemistry is about. So that's really great. In organic, it's mostly chemical properties. I mean, you did melting points and things like that to learn about the purity of a substance. But we'll explain in the spring semester, if you continue on to thermodynamics, why that is a measure of purity. Okay. So the physical properties of chemicals and reacting systems. That's what this course is about. Now, this particular fall semester, we get into the quantum realm. Okay, this is from the Ant-Man and the Wasp or whatever. They get into the quantum realm, and there's all this spooky stuff going on in the quantum realm. And in fact, spooky action at a distance was what Einstein called it. Okay, with entangled wave functions, and you measure this one, and then the other one you already know, like you know it instantly. And the knowledge of the second particle happens instantaneous, which is faster than the speed of light, which is spooky, because that's spooky action at a distance, and there's no way for information to have traveled from one particle to another faster than the speed of light. So they say it breaks locality. And so there's all kinds of, even today, experiments trying to understand how that works. That's too advanced for this course. We'll talk about the things that are measurable with spectrometers and so on, but it does use that quantum concept of the wave function. So we're going to be dealing with wave functions this whole fall semester. That's why you had to have calculus and physics before you even get into this course, so that when you start talking about waves, it makes sense conceptually. But that's really, we'll do some math of the waves. There's only about 3 functions that we're interested in. So of all of the functions you covered in calculus, cosecant and all of these other things in trig, we're just going to deal with sine, cosine, and the exponential function. So that's great. That's really all we need to remember for this. But we're talking about waves and particles. What's the difference, and when does it make sense to talk about a particle? When does it make sense to talk about a wave for this particular experiment? And then science has gotten really arrogant to kind of boast about all the knowledge that we have and everything, but we really don't even know what more than half of the universe is made of. It's dark matter, dark energy, and so whenever the science gets a little too boastful, then Mother Nature throws some curveball at us. And so it's really still a great field that is full of mystery. Okay, so this is the distance scales that we're going to deal with in physical chemistry. At the end of the year, if you go on into thermodynamics, we're going to be dealing with exajoules, or 10 to the 18 joules, which is on the scale of the world's consumption of energy. So 425 exajoules. That would be how much energy the whole globe population uses in a year. And then we'll be talking about microns. So 100 microns is probably, if you see a tiny little dust mote on the lab bench, the smallest little particle you can see is around 100 microns. When we get down to single microns or submicron, like 0.1 microns, then you're at 100 nanometers, and you're at the nanoscale. We'll deal with some of those things too. The quantum realm emerges at that nanometer range, and so that's why nanoscience is so important, because atoms are roughly a nanometer across, a few nanometers, up to hundreds of nanometers. That's the range at which this quantum scale starts to emerge, if you will. But there's nothing sort of super special about the quantum realm. It's where the properties go from bulk to atomic. So that transition from atomic properties to bulk properties is where we're discovering a lot of really interesting properties. So how many people like opals? Have you seen opals? Have you looked at opals and the fiery colors that you see in there? It's because the little cracks inside an opal gemstone are on the nanometer scale. If somebody put a drop of oil on water, you see the rainbows and stuff on the water. Again, the thickness of that oil layer on the water is creating some funky refraction and diffraction of light because it's on the nanometer scale. So we'll get into angstroms. That's 10 to the minus 10 meters. That's a bond length of an H2 atom, molecule. And then the energy of a single H2 bond is a zeptajoule, so 10 to the minus 21 joules. So our course from the fall to the spring covers these huge ranges of things, like almost 36 orders of magnitude. Now, one thing that I hope to inspire you this morning, especially, is inspire some interest in physical chemistry, in chemistry in general. I mean, you guys have been in chemistry for a long time. If you don't like it, why are you here, right? Yeah. And so this quote was just on the email footer of a friend of mine on campus. It's just a quote from Leonardo da Vinci, but it just lit me up because this is, I think, the problem that I see with students, especially in this course. This is such a different course from organic and freshman chemistry. Okay, and some students struggle because they're here for other priorities. So before I explain what I think this quote means, what do you think? So what is Da Vinci trying to tell us here? And have you experienced it?
We're getting personal.
So what is study without desire?
Basically, if you don't care, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, and what do you don't care about? Right? You care about things. So what is it you need to care about?
The subject you're studying?
The actual subject. So if you're here for a grade or a degree or a job, those are great goals, but they will not help you remember anything. This is what you have to bring. I'm already excited about PChem, you can tell. Okay, you have to bring something, and it's desire to know the material, to learn these weird terms, to learn a little bit more about the math, to apply the calculus. Why did I have to take that course? Well, you get to apply it now. Okay, so you went through all of that so you can actually apply it. Don't throw it away. We have a real bad habit. The number one problem in education, especially for your generation, I sound like an old man, is that as soon as you leave the class, you like flush the toilet on your brain and all the stuff you learned that semester goes out. And then you go into the next course like a blank slate. And you have to bring that material forward. You have to recall not just your physics and your calculus, but your freshman chemistry. We're going to go back to quantum numbers. You haven't studied that since Gen Chem 1. So you got to bring that forward. And so retaining that information and reviewing that information is really important. And it's not going to work if you're just aiming for a grade. You're going to have to aim for learning the material and liking chemistry. So find something interesting in it, and then it'll stick. I think you have a knowledge tree and you have these branches that stick off, and new information needs to stick on that branch. okay, for you to remember it. And if you cut off all the branches at the end of every semester, you have no place to put the new information. So regrow those branches, go back and review if you need to, and it'll be a great semester. Now, this is a little doll. We went to Albuquerque, New Mexico, Old Town, and they have all these little dolls in the gift shop and so on. And my wife and I were like, what are these little dolls? And they said, those are the storytellers. Those are the people that pass on the knowledge of the tribe or whatever group they're in. And we have them too. We have storytellers that have taken PChem, and they tell you how terrible it was. And they tell you that, well, I failed twice and had to take it a third or fourth time, you know. And so beware the storytellers. You are different than they are. You will have a different experience than they did. And so don't buy all of the hype, especially if you get through a really hard thing, what are you going to do? You got through, right? So when you tell about it, you're going to make it sound a lot worse than it was. Right? Because you went through this valley of the shadow of death and you came out the other end, and great for you, but then you scare the heck out of the people behind you. And so beware the storytellers. So where are you and where would you move to? So there's you can or you can't do the material. And then this is the important one. You will or you won't do the material. Okay, so it's the 4x4. This is where I want you to be. I can and I will do it. Okay. I can't, but I want to. I'm okay with that too. I'll help you get over to that other one. This is the ones that drive me crazy. I can do it, but I make poor decisions. Okay. Meaning I have like 5 Netflix shows that I'm going to try to get through in addition to doing my coursework and a job and all of that. So you don't cut out everything that can be cut out. Okay. You can binge watch your shows in December, but TV and that kind of thing, entertainment, YouTube, TikTok, that all can wait. Okay. And you'll just be out of touch a little bit, and that's okay. I was out of touch in graduate school and undergraduate, as you can tell. But I caught up, okay, after I got out. And then this is the bad one. I can't and I won't try. Okay. So I want to move everybody up to the will level, and then I want to move people from the can't to the can. And so let's get over there in that upper left-hand corner. So study the syllabus. You know, in a conflict, the syllabus beats Blackboard. If there's a major problem in the syllabus that we discover, then I will go in and change the syllabus, but I'll put a revision number on there, and you'll know this is the revised syllabus, and I'll make an announcement. You know, maybe there's a typo or something, and you know, I can't be held to a typo if it's going to harm like the grading scheme or something like that. So I'll go in and I'll fix that. We'll have an announcement, and then you'll know. But the syllabus is sort of our contract, how telling you that the grade is going to be computed or the late papers are going to be accepted and so on. So let's go through the syllabus. So we have the first homework assignment due this Saturday night by 11:59. So all semester the homework will be due Saturday night. But I'm not around Saturday, so if you have questions, start it early. Like start it on Wednesday night or Thursday morning, and then you can ask your questions in class on Friday, or you can email me, or we can get together on Zoom if you're at work or something like that. We'll get it set. Okay. But that allows those people that do have maybe a Saturday free, they can work on that if they get their questions answered ahead of time. The homework quizzes are on Blackboard. So don't just aim for the points, right? So you go in and try to get the right answer so that you get the points. I mean, you want the points, I get that, but study those questions, because a lot of the exam questions come from the Blackboard homeworks. So if there's a multiple choice and you figure out that B is the answer, figure out what it is about that phrase, word, whatever it is that's right, and why the others are wrong, and how I might ask the question to where the others would be right and this one would be wrong. You see? So look at the concepts behind the question so that you can prepare for the exam. Don't get caught up in just looking for the right letter and not paying attention to the subject matter. Do the numerical problems and enter your answers. Some of them don't have given answers. You got to type in the answer. I put in about a 5% flex to account for rounding errors. So you should have some flexibility in terms of what you put down. Here's the rest. Yeah, sure. Now, if you're trying to put in scientific notation in a text box, use this E. Okay, so you can see here scientific notation in these text boxes. Use E to replace 10 to the. Okay, so Avogadro's number would be 6.02 to E plus 23. You type that in, and that'll be interpreted as scientific notation by the computer. You get 2 attempts, so don't waste them. And so also there's other study tools. Years ago, I did PChem a little differently, and I offered some points for pulling out vocabulary out of the book and doing so on. We made a Quizlet study set. So it's got most of the vocabulary in it for the course. So I think you can get to it for free. I don't know much about the student side of Quizlet. I pay for the professor version of it so that I can keep these things going for years. And so my online name is chem_prof. So if you go to Quizlet and search for chem_prof 4448, you'll get all of the study sets for this. There's 3 or 4 study sets. That's a great way to learn that vocabulary. There's also Kahoot quizzes. It's the same online name, chem_prof. If you go to Kahoot and search ChemProf and 4448, you'll get all of the Quizlets, all of the Kahoots for the classes. Now, we'll do a lot of those in class, and it'll be a way to do them again. You can also challenge your friends when you're studying for the test. 3 or 4 people can run the quiz and try to beat each other. It's really great. So that's Kahoot. And so here's where you find me. I'll be upstairs most of the days in 317G. So you know where the chemistry office suite is, 317, and I'm all the way closest to the NMR lab. You can find me on Quizlet and Kahoot, and then this is my email. I prefer everything to go through email because that serves as my inbox. If you ask me a question or send me some information, maybe you're going to be absent or whatever, then I'll have that in my inbox and I'll work through that. Online, my other online name is PChem for All. It's kind of like preaching PChem for all people. Okay, so PChem for All, and then my science blog is pchemforall.com. So you can find out more information there, but none of that stuff is related to class. So I don't do any class-related things on any of the social media because I don't want to force people onto social media if they don't want to be on there, right? But if you are, then that's where I'm at. Okay, so let's look at the organization of the course. So check Blackboard frequently. Everything that goes through Blackboard, all the notes are on Blackboard, quizzes, etc. And then set up notifications on your phone so when new content goes live, then you'll get a ding. We're using Blackboard Ultra. I don't know, what do y'all think of Ultra? Yes or no? Indifferent? Yeah. Professors, we hate it because we got used to the other one. Yeah, I know. I've been on Blackboard for 20 years. This is my 21st year, so woo. And now they changed this, and it's I had to retool everything. It is what it is. But so there's the syllabus. It's always available here on Blackboard. You can always email me if you, for whatever reason, can't remember williams@shsu.edu. And then there's a weekly schedule folder where you can see all of the tests, exams, lectures, and everything. So if you click on the weekly schedule, you'll see the schedule up there at the top. You'll also have, that's where you'll see the lecture topics, exam dates, and everything, the lab topics and dates. And then each week has a folder. So you always know what you need to be doing that week. So you click on the weekly folder, you've got all the lectures in there, you've got the labs that you're going to do that week, you've got the Turnitin link for the lab report, you've got the Blackboard link for your Excel file, so you do everything in Excel, and then you can do that. So the weekly folder content types, you have lecture notes and handouts that are in PDF form. You also have the homework quiz. It's a PDF, so you download that and you can print it out and you can work it on your own in your own notebook and then go enter your answers. You have this homework quiz submission link. So I would say do your homework in a composition book so that you can study from that. It's really helpful later in the semester to go back and look through your problems notebook, especially when you're studying for the final. And you can see all of the work that you've done. If you're doing your homework on the back of the quiz, and you're going to lose all these loose sheets of paper. So go get you a composition book. They're a couple of bucks at the bookstore, and do your homework in that book, and it'll really be organized. There's the lab handouts, PDFs and Excel files. There's a Turnitin link. Now, if you've not used Turnitin before, it's a really helpful database of all the previous lab reports that people have turned in and other sources. And it goes online and looks for things that you might have copied and pasted from the internet. And so you turn it in, when you submit your paper on this Turnitin link, you got to wait a little bit until it says submission complete. Okay, if you don't do that, then it may not have submitted, and then you think you turned your lab report in, and we don't have it, and then you lose points because it's turned in late. Okay, so we don't want that. And then there's also a place on Blackboard where you could submit your Excel file. So we want to see your work and see that you did it yourself. And then there's sometimes extra content in videos. Now, the computer labs around campus, you've got them in the Newton Gresham Library, you've got them in the Cheese Steak Building, CHSS. This is the Chicken Fried Steak Building. They're the Cheese Steak Building. So, and then the Woodlands Center if you're down in the Woodlands. And use those places to print your PDF notes, okay? Because you guys paid a lot of money in computer fees, right? I don't know, it's like over $300 or something like that. I don't know how much it is in terms of your computer lab use fees. But go use their paper. They've got a big printer. Go in. You got to kind of get ahead, but all of the notes are already on Blackboard. So, print them a couple of days ahead, front and back, whatever. Put them in a notebook, and look through those before the lectures. Okay, that is huge. That's a pro tip. You can write down pro tip. Look at notes before class, because it'll kind of prime the pump. You'll see things we're going to talk about, and you're like, I don't understand that. And then you get to class, and the light goes on. So that's really good. So this is what they look like. Some of the notes, not all of them, but some of the notes have these blanks. So that keeps you engaged in class. You're listening. Oh, I got a blank coming up. Matter has whatever, a mass, and takes up space. Okay. And then if you click on week 1 lectures, this is what you see. You see the PDFs here that can be downloaded. If you're using Blackboard on, say, one of your iPads, I saw one of those over there, you can click over here and you may be able to see the file and interact with it right on Blackboard. But I don't know. Maybe you want to, I would be wanting to download the PDF and mark it up on my own local file. Here's the composition book. So this is what the printout of the PDF homework quiz looks like. This one's a particular, it's a multiple choice one. And so then you would want to take your notes on that. So, write out enough of the problem so that you understand what's going on in your notebook and explain why this is the right answer, and maybe explain why the others are the wrong answer. And then it's super easy to study because it's all in one notebook. Okay, so this is the big question. Where do you go when you need help with the material? Okay, the lecture notes first. Okay, we can't cover everything. If you open the PChem book, it's really in depth. It's made to be like a reference book. Okay, it would be to start with the PChem book would be like, okay, I got to study my vocabulary, so I'm going to start with the dictionary. No, the dictionary has every word in it. You would need to start with the subset of material that I covered, and that's in the lecture notes. Okay, so going to the book is like going to the dictionary. Okay, so start with the lecture notes and the videos, then use the book to go in depth on things. Like maybe you missed a day, and you've got a lecture note here. Maybe your friend gave you some of the markings, but you really don't understand what I was talking about. Then you could go to the video, watch the video, and then you could go to the book to read a little bit more in depth. So look in the index, look for similar words, look for similar figures, and go to the book and find that spot where they're talking about that concept. Okay. Third, classmates. So get together, form groups. Okay. Study groups. You can do that through Blackboard. If you can say, hey, you can send an email to the whole class and say, I'm going to be at the library on Tuesdays at 3. Okay. And then some people may show up. Okay. So do that. That's a good idea. And then fourth, meet. I know it seems backwards, but a lot of times they say, go talk to your professors. And that's true to an extent, but start with these others first, because I've got a lot of things I'm juggling. And so I will, after you've done these things, you'll have a really specific question, and I'll be able to answer it like that. And a lot of times I can answer it by email. So like, oh, well, you've talked about this, and we're confused about this, and I don't understand this word. And then it's a very specific question. Boom, I can get the answer right back to you, and you're back in business, okay? But if you don't do all of these other things and come talk to me, you're going to say things like this. You're going to say, I don't get this. Okay, that's a feeling, I understand, but I have no idea how to fix that. What does it mean you don't get it? Like, is there a specific word you're confused about? Is it a mathematical thing? Are you confused about the units? So this will help you drill down to the thing you're confused about, and then I can really help you. Okay, so that's good. Now let's get down to the specifics. These are how the grades will be computed. In the syllabus, it talks about attendance, homework, lab, and exams. Okay, so these are the weighting factors. The attendance grade will be the number of days you're here divided by the max number of days. Okay, and you get 3 free absences according to the university. So that's where we are with that. The homework, again, homework points. So the number of right answers you have over the semester divided by all the total number of right answers. So that's good. That'll be 15%. And then the lab average will be, again, lab points. Not every lab report is the same because not every lab has the same amount of work. So the really easy labs might be worth 15 points and the really hard labs worth 150 points. So huge difference. So look to see how many points that particular exercise is worth, and you'll say, oh man, this is going to be a hard lab. We got a lot of points associated with it, a lot of things to do, a lot of things to turn in, a lot of Excel work. And then the exams, there's going to be 5 exams, 4 in class during the semester, and then the final. Okay, and they'll be equally weighted, so just the average of the exams. And then this is the weighted average using those weighting factors here. So you take you got 100% attendance, you multiply that by 0.05. And that means you got all 5 of your points for the weighted average related to attendance. Homework average, again, multiply by 0.15, 20% for the lab, and 60% for the exam. So the exams are the highest weighted thing, and so study hard. So here's what you bring to the exam. You can use any dedicated calculator. You just can't use an iPad or a phone, anything connected to the internet, right? It makes sense. I don't want people searching online. You get a 3.5 inch or 3 by 5 inch note card of equations. So that's cool. That way you don't have to memorize all of these equations and, was it m or m squared? And then we'll have a multiple choice section. It won't always be totally multiple choice. There'll be like a written problem or 2, but I like to cover a large amount of material on the exam. So the way to do that is to do multiple choice to kind of hit all of the vocabulary and the simple, straightforward questions, and then we'll have a written piece. And then, of course, a pencil and an eraser. And then the attendance policy. So sign the roster when you get here. It'll be bouncing around. Anybody else still need it? Where is it, by the way? Okay, I'll get it. So there's 3 ways to screw this up. One is to forget to sign the roster, and you forgot. Okay, so the second is signing for someone else. Don't lie. Your reputation is worth way more than 1 point. Okay, and then third, freaking out about attendance. I mean, it's one class period is 1/40th of 1/20th of your grade. Okay, so we don't need doctor's notes. We don't need all these letters from everybody because you're going to miss one class, right? I only do the roster for 2 reasons. One, to give you some easy 5 points, okay? Encourage attendance, okay? And the other is to find that student that disappears in October, right? So I can check in with them. So that's what I'm really looking for. I'm not sitting here worried about whether you miss one class or not. I'm worried about the student who I stopped seeing in October and it's now November and I'm like, man, something's wrong here. So I'll start trying to contact them when I see a missing signature for many, many weeks in a row. So that's what I'm really looking for. And I can throw some points at you guys. Hey, it's always helpful, right, to get a few points. But that's so I'm not. It just sort of gets out of hand when people are like trying to email me a dozen times and give me a bunch of notes and paperwork over something that's really insignificant in terms of their grade. So sign the roster when you're here, and we're good. Okay. Okay, the homework quizzes, I already said, do them in this sort of composition book. That really helps. No late copies or late submissions or hard copies, because I just want this to run automatically. Okay, it has to be entered on Blackboard. If you don't get it in by the Saturday night deadline, that's 1/15 of your homework grade. In terms of the number of weeks in the course, it's not going to kill you, but don't do that. I mean, don't screw up by procrastination and miss 10 points, out of 150 or so. Laboratory. Now this is important because this is where a lot of the work goes into the lab. Okay, so we'll start in 101. So it's the room right next to us here. Every Monday or Wednesday or Thursday, whenever your section is, and there's a laptop cart there. So some of the software like Gaussian, we don't have Mac versions for it, but we have Windows laptops that you can use with Gaussian loaded. So if you have a Mac system, you can use our laptop for Gaussian. It's a little bit slower laptop, but it's fast enough to get the job done. If you have your own laptop, you can use that. You can use your Apple devices for your reports and Excel and everything. There's no problem with that. But in terms of using Gaussian computational chemistry package, we just don't have a Mac version. If you do have your own Windows PC that you want to load the computational chemistry software, we have a site license for it, but it's only for while you're a student. So the honor code is that you would delete that when you graduate, okay? But we don't come track you down. But you could use it on your laptop, and it's a really great software, so it's worth playing with. Okay, so then the real issue with the lab work is I had to put this in there, that an unannounced and unaddressed laboratory absence or missing report will cause a failing grade. Now that's pretty draconian. That means it's intense. But what I was trying to avoid is one year I had a student that just played the practical game, and they said, this last lab is a lot of work, and the lab's only worth 20% of my grade, and I'm pretty happy with what I got, so I'm just going to skip that last lab. Well, there were a lot of skills in that last lab that I wanted all the students to have. And so I had to say, you don't really get to just skip something and not get those skills. So I had to put this in there to force everybody to do every lab. So that's why it's there. It's not to that's why it's there, okay? And because I don't want to let you have that mindset, because when you get into the real world and you have a job and the boss asks you to prepare a report 6 months out and it's a lot of work, and you're like, I'm doing great in all the other areas of my job, but I just really want to do all that work. So I'm just not going to do that report. You're going to get fired. So I don't want to sort of train you to live a certain way that when you get out is going to actually cause a lot of pain. So we're going to do all the labs. Even if you get behind, turn it in no matter how incomplete. Okay? It's okay to do a bad job. It's not okay to do no job. Okay? So so that's the main point. It's about communication. Life happens. Maybe you're sick. You can't come to class or come to the lab. Talk with the TA. Talk to me. That's addressing it. This is the unannounced, unaddressed absence. You miss a week and you never talk to your TA and never talk to me, and you got a 0 in a grade book the whole semester. We get to the end and you never said anything about it, never communicated. That's an F. Okay. They're typically submitted in 2 parts, the lab reports, an Excel part and a PDF printout of your report. Now, I tried to make this course teach writing in a particular way. Some of the other writing enhanced courses like biochem and others, you do full formal reports every week or every assignment. I wanted to take smaller bites. So 1 week might be focused on equations and putting equations into Word and learning the equation editor. And then another week will be putting figures into Word. Good morning. And then another week might be formatting tables. So I'm trying to teach individual skills with each lab report. So you're learning some science and you're learning a particular writing skill. And then about 2/3 or half the way through the semester, you put it all together in a formal report. So you've got 2 or 3 formal reports and 1 revision. So, but all the reports building up to that are smaller pieces of the larger report. Now, you may say all of that work for 20%. That stinks, right? But it's not just for 20% because a lot of the lab work feeds into the exams. So if you really try to understand the concepts in the lab, you're going to do much better on the exams. So I do capture the knowledge that you get from the lab on the exam. So if you do well in the lab, you'll do better on the exams. Now, I always hated these terrible late policies where you miss it by 1 minute and you lose like half the points. That's terrible. And here we are, mathematicians, right? We know how to do an exponential function. Okay? So I don't like this business where there's a deadline and you lose half your points and then you lose all your points. That's pretty dumb, to be honest. Why not do a half-life? Okay, so your grade has a half-life. A certain period of time at which your grade is cut in half. And that half-life is right here, 8 hours. Okay, so whenever you turn in your report, let's say you turn it in a minute late, that's insignificant. You turn it in, an hour late, it's still pretty insignificant. So if you're writing out that last discussion question and you want to, like the deadline's approaching, it's probably best to finish that question and make sure that it's right and then submit it. Because yeah, you might lose, a little bit of your grade, but it'll go up if you get that answer correct. Okay? So that allows you to kind of judge your work. It goes down to a minimum of 1 point. A 1 in the grade book just indicates that you turned something in and you're not going to fail the course, just like administratively. Okay. So the TAs will look to see the submission time of the last piece of your assignment. So Excel and the PDF, whichever is the last one to come in, that sets your when you turned it in. So if it was due at midnight on Tuesday night or something like that for the Wednesday lab, and you turn it in at 1 o'clock, it's an hour late. And it'll just go into this equation that's in the syllabus. And so they'll grade it. Let's say you got 100, okay, but it was an hour late. And so then it'll be dropped down to like a 95. Okay, so that's the way it works. Sounds overly complicated, but we're physical chemists. We can figure that out. Okay, so academic dishonesty. This is I'd say like every other or every third semester, somebody starts with someone else's work, okay? And we can detect that through Turnitin. We can detect that through the properties and Excel files and so on, or just the same typos, Yeah, so it's pretty easy to detect when somebody is just starting with someone else's work. And so that's bad. That's you receive a 0 if you do that. If the other person's also in the same course, they'll receive a 0. We talk to the chair and all that. It's just something terrible. But also plagiarism. So people will go out onto the internet and they'll just grab chunks of text and stick it into their reports. Turnitin now has, I don't know how they do it, but they have some sort of pass at an AI detector. So write your own words, and that's fine. I don't really want like a theory section that sounds like it's written out of a textbook. I want you to just discuss what we're doing in the lab and why we're doing it in your own words. Okay. Now, plagiarism is defined here, the use of 10 or more consecutive words from a source without quoting or citing the source. So you can quote books and texts and papers and so on, but you got to cite your source. Okay. And then exams are important, so plan ahead. If you're going to miss an exam, call my office number, email me, let me know what's happening. Do your best to get here. If you're fairly local and your car won't start, just call a cab, call a friend, call somebody, get here and get that exam taken. Okay. So get ready for week 1. So all of the material is already on Blackboard. I wrote a book on how I teach it. Yes?
I'm sorry, earlier when we were doing the graded rate, it said 5 exams, on the previous slide it said 6, I just want to be sure, is it 6 or 5?
Oh, let's see. Where did it say?
At the top it says there'd be 6 exams, including the
Yeah,
final.
okay, so it should be 5. I need to go fix that. Yeah, thanks. Good catch. Yeah. So I teach physical chemistry in one dimension so that we can easily see the wave functions and so on. And I've been doing that for 15 of these 20 years. And so 2 years ago, I decided to write that down in the form of a book, okay? So the book is completed, it's been published, and it's right here on Blackboard. And so this is not the way it's taught in Atkins, okay? And half of what I did in my book is in Atkins. The other half is new, I guess. And so read chapters 1 and 2 for this week, okay? It's probably 20, 30 pages, not very long, but they're small, they're like half pages. And that'll get your mind primed for what we're going to be talking about early on. We cover the math of quantum mechanics on the first 2 exams. Okay, and so it's really math heavy here at the beginning of the course, and then we get into the applications. Read through the PowerPoints before class, and then this week's lab, we don't have to go to lab, but it's an Excel boot camp. And so the videos are on YouTube, so go there. You can download this PDF, it's the lab handout. It'll tell you what you need to do, what you need to turn in to get a successful grade on that lab. But that'll get you going on Excel. If you've never used Excel before, then jump on that boot camp and do that. Start working on it today. If you've never seen Excel before, you come out of this course with really good skills in Excel. And that's probably, even if you hate chemistry and you leave the field altogether, you're going to benefit from the Excel skills. Years ago, I had a student tell me he got a raise on the spot because he knew how to make a plot that was well formatted and so on. His boss asked him to plot some data. He brought it back and showed it to him, and he goes, "I'm not paying you enough." Because he didn't want him to get stolen by somebody else in another division. So immediately, when he saw the quality of work he was able to do in Excel, he got a raise. So that was a good story. And then, again, read through those PowerPoints before class. So now's the time when you ask your question publicly so everybody can benefit. Yes?
In the class schedule, it has 6 exams.
Oh, okay. Maybe. Let me look at that real quick. Yeah. Yeah, okay, 6. It is 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So I need to change that equation page. The thing that is changing, why it's not consistent is sometimes I've had the last exam and sometimes I've just put the last exam on the final. But having a dedicated last exam gives you more bites at the apple or more tries, and so I put it back in. So yeah, let's do that. Let's have exam 5 on MO theory, and then we'll have a comprehensive final, as opposed to not having exam 5 and throwing that material on the final. That would reduce the number of exams, but I think it's okay. I started cutting it because PChem's final was like the Monday. So you had an exam, say, on Friday, and then the final the next Monday. And it was tough to kind of study. But now our exam is pushed back to Thursday. So we have almost a whole week to study for the comprehensive final. So we'll go ahead and do that 5th exam at the last day of class, roughly that Wednesday. And then you'll have almost a whole week to study. Well, it will be a whole week to study for the comprehensive final. And you get to use all your note cards on the final, so keep them. So that's cool. Great question. Yes, either one. Roxy.
Yeah. I have a question about the
lab notebook, is there a dedicated lab notebook at the bookstore, or is it all gonna be online there?
All of the lab handouts are online, and there's really no lab notebook. So you'll do all your work in Excel, and then you'll turn that in, and then you'll do your writing in Word, and then you'll print to PDF, and you'll turn that into the Turnitin link. And so that's all you have for the lab. Now, for the problems and any kind of work that you want to do, get one of those composition books. And they're just dirt cheap. There's no carbon copies or anything like that. And we won't ever check those. That's just for you to have all of your PChem work in one place that's bound. Yeah, and it's great. Stick it in a closet after the year's over, and then in 20 years when you're moving or whatever, you pull that out and you look at it and you're like, I can't believe I did all of this. You will really impress yourself. I know, I go back and look at some of the work I had to do, and I'm like, oh my gosh, differential equations, like, no way I can. Anyway, it's really great. And so I want you to have that future experience, and that's only going to happen in a bound thing. Well, maybe it'll happen on the iPad, and you're like deleting things, and you're like, look at this PDF, and you're like, what the heck is that? Yeah. Yes.
There's no lab exam, right?
No, because that material, the concepts, and everything will be on the regular exams. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
For the labs, will we be expected to have a lab coat with us?
No, it'll be the regular thing of no shorts and closed-toed shoes. There's a couple of times when we go up to the PChem lab in my research lab and collect some data on the infrared, and there's chemicals in there, so it's not that we're going to be dealing with caustic solutions, but if somebody bumps one and it spills and splashes, so it'd really be splash protection. So you don't really need lab coats, but you would need long pants and closed-toed shoes. But if you can kind of look at the lab handout and see if it's just a computational chemistry week, then you can be in 101 the whole time and with your shorts and stuff like that, your Crocs. Okay. Yes.
The index card for the exams and the equations, is that going to be front and back or just front?
Front and back is fine, yeah. And however small you can write. I don't want them to be computer generated because I don't want one person making them for like their 5 friends, because that's the making of that note card is really the tool that I'm after. It's trying to, you've got your little backpack that you're going into battle with, and what are you going to put in it, right? So it's just your little go bag. It's your 3x5 card. What are you going to take into battle with you? So you're looking at a material and you're trying to distill it down to what you need when you go take the exam.
And is it only equations allowed on it, or if we put other notes as well, one that fits?
You can put whatever fits.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
One side, two side.
2 side. Yeah. But 3x5. You don't want me to cut off the extra. Right? That'd be so sad in the exam. I'm going to cut off all the good parts. Yeah. All right, cool. Yes.
Does lab start the week after Labor Day?
Yes.
Okay.
So be sure to get on that Excel boot camp this week and then turn in whatever it is that you turn in. So I'm excited. Bring it. Bring your excitement.